Record. Welcome to this special program, Design for Your Mind by Annie Guest. I am Casey Peluso of Parkinson Foundation, Western Pennsylvania, and I am delighted to introduce you to a wonderful friend and partner of Parkinson Foundation, Western Pennsylvania, Annie Guest. Annie has had a varied career in book publishing, advertising, and law before she took another leap to work as a mental health therapist and publish her first book. In Design for Your Mind, Annie combines her passion for people and their potential with her love for interior design and her appreciation for design choices that support mental health. Thank you, Annie Guest, and please take it away.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you all for joining us. Don't feel bad that you're one of just a few people who've joined the live session today, because the number of people we've recorded who've been watching these sessions after the fact numbers in the well over well, close to 200 people so far. So we've got a lot of interest in this topic, but the advantage to you of joining the live sessions is that you can ask questions and we can have really animated discussions in real time. Just a couple of other words about me. Thank you, Casey, for the introduction. Um, the reason I wrote this book is that during my parents' final years, my dad had Parkinson's and my mom suffered from spinal stenosis, which had afflicted her for many years, but eventually she developed dementia. And I'm the oldest child and daughter, obviously, and I lived in the house next door. So a lot of the care of my parents fell to me, and I considered it a privilege and a joy in a lot of ways, but also it came at a cost, because this is the real world. It came at a cost. Um, but I wouldn't have missed it for anything. After my parents passed away, my sister and I spent a good 18 months cleaning out the house. Um, and I inherited the house from my parents. But by the time we had made any real headway on clearing out the clutter, I was feeling a little burned out. And I had had so little control over my time and energy for such a long time. I was really not quite connected to myself anymore. And I decided eventually to use what I understood as a mental health therapist and my lifelong passion for interior design to renovate the house in ways that helped me recharge and reconnect with myself. Midway through this process, it occurred to me that so many other people are in this situation as caregivers, um, and co-executors of estates, or maybe the sole executor of an estate, that if I could collect everything that I was learning through this process and put it into a book, I might be able to spare other people the time and energy they were spending doing the same thing I was doing, so they could get on with their lives. And that's how the book came to be. Um, I didn't want to knock down walls or erase traces of my parents as I renovated the house. I simply wanted to refresh the house in ways that helped me to find my spark again. That saved me a lot of money. You save a lot of money when your ambition is not to knock down walls and gut the kitchen and that kind of thing. But that also meant that my job was to really look closely at the house and determine what I liked about it and what I wanted to celebrate, what I wanted to enhance and draw attention to in my design choices. So here is the foyer. You walk through the front door and you see this wall that you see right now. It's just a wall, and on the other side of that wall is a large atrium. Um, the I wanted to highlight the patterned marble floor in the atrium. So this is along the lines of de deciding what it was that I appreciated and what I wanted to enhance. And the little black accents you see in that marble floor. And I also wanted to use the foyer to set the stage for the rest of the house, because the foyer or the entrance hall is the first room that people see when they walk into the house. And I wanted to catch visitors' attention and to make them wonder what interesting things lie beyond that wall. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on these renovations. So my design choices went beyond not knocking down walls. I looked for things that were easy and affordable. That wall hanging that you see is a shibori cotton tablecloth. The shibori is the pattern. It's already hemmed, and I simply made a rod pocket at the top, and we hung a curtain rod. That means that there's no sagging, but it also means that if I want to change the wall hanging, I can do it very easily and put up something else. The table that you see, that console table, I hope that you can see the legs. They're called the Bailey turned legs. It's turned legs in a Bailey style. You see the kind of the bulbous um, shape in the middle of those legs. This is a custom made table. I couldn't find a console table with Bailey turned legs anywhere online, and I finally found a company that makes only table and sofa legs. It's called Carolina Leg Company, and in North Carolina. And I ordered these legs in the Bailey style online, and then I hired a carpenter to design and build a console table around the legs. The legs are pine, so the table was in its natural color, a very light color, but because I wanted to highlight the black accents in the marble floor, I asked the carpenter to stain the table a very, very, very dark mahogany color. The sculptures that you see on the table, I found on eBay. Affordable collectibles. I happened to find a sculptor on eBay in California whose work I like, and all my sculptures in the house are made by this person. I've got his name in the book. Um, but what I love about the sculptures is that they're classic. They could date from pre-Columbian times, or they could have been made last week. So they're kind of severed from any particular time period, and it gives them kind of a freedom. Then on that table are brass knickknacks that I inherited from my beloved grandmother. The paint color that you see on that wall, I found after using the Benjamin Moore website, and I used lots and lots of free services as I was doing this, but one of the free services is the Benjamin Moore website. And I don't know if you know this, you can upload pictures of your room and then start experimenting with paint colors. And that eliminates the time and expense that you would otherwise be spending buying little samples or trying out paint colors and realizing you've wasted your money and your time. You can just sit down with the website and just try every paint color you want. Um, but I chose a paint color that is neutral so that if I ever do decide to take down that wall hanging, put up something else, the color on that wall would work with any other wall hanging. Now we go to the den. This was a stumper. I used the Benjamin Moore website to find the right paint color, but I was looking for inspiration for weeks. So I auditioned probably 60 paint colors for this room, just trying to get some vision of a way to bring the room alive. The curtains had been in hanging in that room since before my parents moved into the house in the late 90s, and they had holes in them. And I gave the curtains to a mechanic friend who lies on them now as he works under cars. This is the den after. One of the tricks that I use is to stand in the doorway of a room and look into the diagonal corner of the room and use the diagonal corner as a site for a focal point. So I try to put interesting things in that diagonal corner. Here you've got a reproduction of a painting by Mark Rothko in the corner. You've got the bookshelves, glass sculpture. You've got a sectional sofa and um, an accent pillow with an ECOT print. That's that blue and white accent pillow that's facing you. So that pattern grabs the eye. Then I deliberately chose coffee table in this room and wherever else I was able to get coffee tables that are made of glass. So the eye passes through the glass on its way to the focal point in the corner and is not blocked by a solid object. All of this brings more light into the room. And this room has a west-facing window and a south-facing window, so there's lots of natural light. And I eventually, when I decided to write the book, wrote it in this room because I could spend hours there enjoying the natural light, sustaining my concentration. And it was a room that I can say absolutely um, really does support a lot of time without making me feel claustrophobic. There's a reason that I chose a round coffee table. I didn't want guests to get up from that sectional sofa and bang their legs on a corner. That's no fun. So not only the round shape not only softens the look of the room, but it prevents kind of unpleasant experiences. One of the features in the room is a side table that I inherited from my grandmother, which has turned legs. And that lamp that you see was actually a vase that my great grandparents brought back from China in probably the early, maybe 1904. And they had it made into an electric lamp. So they were upcycling, they were repurposing all the way back then. But I really like that lamp and I've liked it ever since I was a child. And does anybody have questions?
I haven't seen any in the chat yet, but we can give it a moment in case anyone has questions. You can unmute yourself and ask it or type it in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
This is a screen hanging in the den, and it's a collage made of sheet music. I happened to find it at in an antique store, so I picked it up for about $25. That sheet music is antique. It's, I mean, there are inscriptions written on it to people dated over 100 years ago. But I like to celebrate the unexpected. So you don't really expect to see this on your wall. And if you can do something funky and surprise the eye, that helps to make the room more stimulating. This is the before picture of the mantle area in the den. And like a lot of people, my mom and dad, or at least my mom, like to just put framed pictures on tables and on mantles. But the result is a lot of visual clutter. It's a very standard thing that a lot of people do, but it requires a lot of extra work and care and dusting. And I prefer to hang framed photos on a wall in a hallway and use that area as a gallery. So that reduces household clutter considerably, and it leaves room to highlight the details of the mantle itself. So here's the after of the mantle area, and this is a big old antique mirror that I had in my previous house. But there you see the screen, the collage, um, and here's some original art, canvas artwork by a friend of mine. But I'm so determined to feel that the house feel free and encourage me to breathe and feel not confined that I even chose a wicker chair that swivels. Now here is the atrium that lies on the other side of that wall that you saw in the foyer, that accent wall. There's a lot going on in this room. We've got the floral sofa, and the lattice work, and some clutter of pictures on walls. Um, and I wanted the room to feel simpler and more disciplined and focused and more fun. Um, the One of the things I came out of the caregiving and co-executor experience with was a real need to feel free again and to breathe deeply. And so whenever I could declutter and create a simpler visual experience, I did that. Um, Not that I'm terrifically minimalist, but at least I wanted a sense of my environment being controlled. So here's the after for the atrium. I kept the floor bare because of the heavy traffic in this room. On one side of the room is the living room, on another is the den, and another is the dining room. So there's a lot. This room is a kind of a thoroughfare for a lot of traffic. I didn't want to worry about rugs in this room. And so I kept the floor bare. It's a porcelain floor and it stands up to heavy traffic. The paint color that I used in place to replace the gray on the walls mimics the sky. And this room is an atrium itself. It has 30-foot ceilings and it's skylights. And I wanted to draw the eye to the ceiling with a color that mimicked the color of the sky. Um, but using light colors in general to make rooms feel bigger and ceilings feel higher is a way to make um, to encourage breathing if one is feeling confined after or um, during life experiences. I chose love seats, smaller than sofas, in order to prevent crowding in the room. And that one rug that I did use is under those love seats. It's a jute rug, but it has silver threads to make it look a little dressier. Over the mantle is a mirror that my dad made, and I wanted to highlight that. So I kept the arrangement on the mantle very simple because I wanted to draw focus to the mirror my dad made. I like to combine antiques with modern. So here you'll see an antique barometer along with these modern love seats. And again, that's to create surprise. This is the living room before. Um, the focal point in this room in its before version is probably unintentional. My mom put framed pictures here in the corner. Um, and when I took this picture, I was standing in the doorway. So I'm looking at this diagonal corner. And what do we see but this clutter? Um, I prefer, as I mentioned, to designate a wall of a hallway for framed photos. But again, we have the curtains that have been hanging in living rooms since before my parents moved in around 1997. And I gave those curtains to my mechanic friend. But I wanted to lighten the room, to use that diagonal corner in a way that drew the eye without creating an image of clutter. And the trick here again is that you're creating a focus in that corner, but everything that the eye sees on the way to that corner is what it kind of sweeps into the picture. So we've got the light colored sofa, the Ecot love seats. We've got the little strawberry colored velvet round pillow. I found this armchair in the basement of the house where it had been for at least 30 years. It had been reupholstered by one of the previous owners, and it was in such good condition. I just thought it was a treasure, so I brought it up. When my parents, oh, I mean, then see this convex mirror, because the ceiling in this room is so high, I wanted to draw the eye upward, so I hung this mirror higher than what one might expect. Um, but here was one of the issues that we had with this room. My parents had glassed in, enclosed the patio on the other side of this window and the window its mate. And they created this room. We'd celebrate birthdays. And it was a very nice room, but the effect of the enclosure was to cut down on some of the natural light that had streamed into this room before the enclosure. So my job was to bring more light into the room. And I'll show you how I did that in a minute. But one of the things that I did was choose this particular furniture, the light colored sofa, and the patterned ecot with the liberal white background to bring more light into the room. And these rugs, you might be able to see, are blue and green, but with little flashes of orange. So that's all about bringing light. And of course, these two coffee tables are glass. And I mentioned why I choose glass. Um, Now, here's what we call the lion chair. It had been in the family since my great grandparents brought it back with them from China, and I'd always liked it. But over the years, it was been kind of missed out on some loving, and the bottom of the chair is falling, as you see, almost to the floor. And then in the selection process, as my siblings and I worked through um, the items that had been appraised, and in a series of conference calls, my sister chose the chair. I missed out on it. And yet, a few weeks later, she called and tried and asked if she could bargain with me, giving up this chair in this condition for something else she wanted. So I took the chair and found someone to reupholster it. So now the chair is one of the stars in the living room, and my sister uh, wants it back. But uh, okay, that's not going to happen. So here we have the lion chair. But what I did to bring more light into this living room, I hung this mirror over the mantle so that the light coming from, that does still come through these, the windows of this enclosed patio can reflect on the mirror and shed more light into the room. So these are just a few of the tricks that we can use when a room lacks natural light. Does anybody have questions? Comments? Sydney?
I have a comment. I really like how you use the natural light to the benefit of the room. I just think that's
Thank
very
you.
impressive.
Thank you. Casey, when I look at this photo, I really appreciate how precious natural light is. I mean, it's not just light, it's a special kind of light. You wouldn't be getting these this kind of texture and depth you see in this picture if under if this were artificially illuminated. I mean, obviously we have to turn on lights when we need them, but this is, do you see the dimension that the natural light adds?
Yes, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Does that room get the morning sun or the setting sun?
Sydney, great question. It's these windows face north. This window faces east, so it does get the morning sun. The window on the other side of this love seat gets the afternoon sun.
Ah,
Yeah. So I mean, it really is, it's a lovely room with a lot of natural light, but this is not a room where you can be kind of casual with your choices as to whether a room is light. Say, for example, whether you want to choose a dark colored rug or not. I'm going to go back to the rugs. Um, I mean, you have to be careful about every choice you make in a room like this. I know these curtains in that had been hanging in the house since before my parents moved in are very aged, of course, but one of the things that I was very happy to see was when I replaced the curtains, the lighter color of these new curtains immediately brightened the room.
Mm.
Now, are we all ready to move on to the kitchen?
Yes.
Okay. Please excuse the mess. I took this photo long before I had the idea to write the book. But I took the photo to upload it onto the Benjamin Moore website and experiment with paint colors. So we have all these boxes that my sister and I were assembling in order to give things away. There's a lot of white in this room, which you probably can see even with the boxes. Um, and um, I wanted to give the room more personality and punch. And I wanted to do that with a variety of bold colors and textures and shapes and materials. And by creating drama in the room and directing the eye to the drama. The island in every kitchen, at least in this one, in every kitchen I've ever seen, the island of a kitchen is the focal point, a natural focal point, because it's the largest object in the room. And it tends to be located in the center of the room. And unfortunately, this island had been used as a drop off spot for orphan objects. I mean, just a place where you just dump things. Um, but that made um, it a kind of a site that presented clutter every time you walked into the room. I wanted to direct the eye to the corner over the refrigerator because that is on the diagonal to the door that you enter from through which you enter the kitchen from the outside of the house. So I put vinyl tiles. These aren't even real tiles. I found these vinyl tiles on Etsy and I stuck them on the wall over the refrigerator. Then I used this color that I found on Benjamin Moore, this kind of wispy green, and but chose this big clock and put it on this accent wall in order to draw the eye. So all of this is going on in this corner. I banished the clutter and reorganized the objects in wicker baskets with lids and in a vintage apothecary chest that you'll see in a minute. The pendant lights I found online, very inexpensive, not expensive to have put up, but they add interest to the room. Another thing that you're going to see here is these knobs, these cupboard knobs that I switched because the cupboard knobs before had been white with little flowers. I painted the island cupboards in this navy blue and found these funky pulls, cabinet pulls on Etsy. And I love buying things from Etsy because I like interacting with individual shop owners and building relationships with them. And they always go out of their way. I mean, they treasure every customer. So it is so fun to order from Etsy. Um, but you can see these little knobs and these poles were so inexpensive and they made a huge difference to the room. I mean, you don't have to be a DIY expert or have a lot of money to burn to make a big impact with these tiny changes. And then here we've got the vinyl tiles again from Etsy. Um, and one of the things my mom did that I love was choose back in the late 90s this countertop, this Corian, it's called Corian surface countertop in plain white with this navy blue accent stripe, but just plain white. The countertops are in perfect condition over 25 years later, and they're not some pattern that I have to fight with. They're just plain and classic, and I'm so happy to keep them. So this gives you a better idea of what the kitchen island looked like after I switched the hardware and painted the island, the cupboards, navy blue. I mentioned that apothecary chest. I found this on eBay. So binder clips, paper clips, rubber bands, a screwdriver. I mean, anything I need to have on hand easily is in this cute little chest and not sitting in some big tray on the middle of the kitchen island with a bunch of fortune cookies and mustard packets. This is the entrance that I mentioned, the door through which you enter the kitchen. I didn't want to look at dirty dish towels every time I walked in. I didn't want other people looking at dirty dish towels. So I hung this brass towel rod on the other side of the island, out of sight. And this is where I store things like cutting boards, but dish towels. Now, does anybody have any questions? Janice, how are you doing? She may be, she may be, oh, Janice, do you want to unmute? If she does have questions, and she'll tell you, Casey.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I wanted to create a place for guests to stay over that gave them privacy and made them feel relaxed and pampered. And this is the before of the guest room. Here's the after. Here you see the diagonal corner again that you see as you're standing in the doorway. There's a painting I'd always loved that my great grandparents brought back from Japan. And then we have this wicker chair, an accent pillow from Etsy, this funky standing lamp that I found on Target, round mirrors because the shape of round is soft. So I wanted a feeling of softness in the room. The wicker shades block out just enough light, but not so much that my guests aren't going to wake up in the morning. Waffle weave bedspread with a nice thick quilt underneath. A blanket from Morocco I found on Etsy.
I take it the sun came in from that side window? beside the bed there?
You ask good questions. Yes. Okay. Yes, that is the east. That is facing east. So that's the sun window, the sunrise window. So I didn't want my guests to have the sun blinding them if they were coming in from a long flight, first thing in the morning. But I also didn't want them to feel as if I didn't want blackout. I didn't want them to wake up in the afternoon and wonder where the day had gone. So there's just enough light that's filtered through the wicker. This is a north-facing window. But the real issue, yes, the the window I wanted to be most sensitive about was this east-facing window that would
Yeah.
see the sunrise.
Yeah, I like that window treatment.
Thank you. Sydney, I found, believe it or not, I don't want to plug for Amazon without, um, this is a custom window treatment that I found that I ordered through Amazon. Um, they, I mean, I really loved it. So it was, they turned it around very quickly. I was very specific. They asked you to be very specific about the measurements, and they made it to order. All of this is in my book. So everything that you see, I mean, anything that you see, if you're interested, I mean, if I say I got an accent pillow through Etsy, I tell you the name of the shop, the Etsy shop, every single thing. But yes, I provide the name of this vendor on Amazon, and these are curtains that filter some light, but again, they're not blackout.
Yeah, I see that.
And here's another view of the same east-facing window. Most important, um, for my guests, I wanted this to be a kind of I had this fantasy that I could create an experience for my guests that made them feel pampered as if they were staying in a lovely hotel, but also feeling that their personal needs were being taken care of. I just had this fantasy of this just being this lovely place for my guests. So what was really important to me was an extremely comfortable mattress. And believe it or not, um, or I was surprised to find that mattress shopping has changed hugely since
Yeah.
I remember it. I mean, do you remember going from store to store and having to flop down on these samples? And I mean, that's over. You don't have to do that anymore. See, thank goodness, because who has time? And if you're taking care of anybody, you absolutely do not have time. Um, but I read online reviews of mattress, professional reviews, and consumer reviews. Wirecutter at the New York Times is a great place to read professional reviews, but there are many other sites for professional reviews. But I came across something called the Lisa Sapira Hybrid Coil and Foam Mattress, and ordered it through lisa.com. It was delivered to my door, rolled up in a box, and we removed it from we brought it into the room before we did this, and removed it, cut open its packaging, and then over about 24 hours, the thing got bigger and bigger and bigger. So it gradually took shape, and it is the most comfortable mattress I've ever slept on. And I know that I discovered that when I had to sleep on this bed one night and couldn't believe that I'd never noticed that the 30-year-old mattress that I'd inherited in the big house was as hard as a rock, and that's why I was only getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night and tossing and turning during those 3 or 4 hours, and said, "Oh my heavens, this is my mattress." But my guests had enjoyed it. So I went out and ordered one just like this for my bedroom. But it is exceptional. Yes.
As a massage therapist, I appreciate everything you just said there. But I tell you what I find interesting in what you did with the room. I see the end tables. You decided to use different end tables left and right, but also different lamps left and right. I like that. I like that.
Thank you.
Something
You've got
uniqueness
a
there.
thank you.
I see you have
Um,
the wood on your
I
one side and you went with the glass and the wire on the other side. I like that uniqueness.
thank you. Sydney, um, I'm not into matchy matchy.
I see that.
No. I mean, I like surprise. I like incongruity. I like, I like unique.
I
Um,
see that. I see that. That
Yeah, I
speaks
mean,
to
even
me.
in the living room, where I've got the little accent pillows on the sofa, the only two pillows that match are the white ones
I noticed
that are
that.
actually bordering, acting as frames for the pillows in between them.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice touch.
Because every time, I'm glad, I mean, it sounds like you love interior design. Every time you make a choice, it's an opportunity to express yourself. I
Yeah.
mean, why? I mean, what is matchy matchy about? Um,
I have,
so
I
thank you. Thank you
have a
for
question.
noticing.
I love these comments.
Yeah, well, I do too. Um, um, yeah.
There's
I
two
mean, is every
questions.
single choice you make is another creative opportunity.
I love that opportunity.
Oh, by the way, if you're noticing these details, like um this lamp, which I like very much, came with a standard manufacturer's plain, kind of white bread, kind of lampshade. I mean, boring, but adequate, but not interesting. Okay, this is a DIY that I did without any sophisticated skill level. I got online and found ribbon, frayed edge ribbon, gauzy ribbon that I wrapped around this lampshade to create this texture. Can you see it?
Yes,
Kind of the
yes, I
subtle
see that now.
stripes.
Okay.
So that's how I created interest, made the lampshade more interesting. But because the material is gauze, it didn't block the light. One reason I don't kind of announce this during these presentations is that I don't want to be irresponsible and lead people to do this if a lampshade is too small. If a lampshade, if doing this brings the material too close to the light bulb and they're creating a fire hazard. That's not what's, I'm trying to be responsible, but I'm telling you, this is what I did. Um, I did the same thing in the living room, um, and with a huge drum lampshade. It was about 30 feet wide, where I knew I could do it very, very safely. But this is something you would have to do really judiciously if you by making sure that the material that you were introducing to the lampshade wasn't coming too close to the light bulb.
Well, what I like about that is how, with it being a corner set like that, it softened the light off both of the walls, versus the opposite lamp, which is a little much more harder light, you know. So I like that contrast also. The softer in the corner and the harder out towards the open, you know. I thought that was a nice touch on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate your eye, and this is really fun to hear your comments. Thank you. Tell me, I mean, you'll notice some other things. Okay, this is the little galley kitchen in the guest house. Um, this is the before, and you see the beige Formica countertops. And it's pretty bland. I'd never had a galley kitchen before. The so I really was a little bit stumped. This galley kitchen is so tiny that the foot space measures only 5 feet by 7 feet. It's smaller than a lot of bathrooms. Um, so the question was, how do I bring it alive without over cluttering it? And I went to Pinterest to see if I could get some ideas. So I just did a search for galley kitchens. Sydney, do you ever use Pinterest?
No, I don't do anything along these lines. I spent a couple years working with my son, and what we did, we delivered high class furniture into these multi-million dollar houses and properties, and so we worked intimately with interior designers. And so this is why I'm appreciating your presentation so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Are you, I mean, that's good background. Now, thank you. Um,
Yeah, because I'm looking at the variety of knobs that you have on your cabinets right there, you know. So
yeah, no, here I'm experimenting with some way to liven up. I was really stumped by this room. This
yeah, I
is
can't wait to see what you do with that window.
yeah. I mean, tell me if you like it. The original knobs were white. The cupboards are white. The counter obviously is beige for Michael. Then you've got this little pull-out thing because the kitchen is so tiny. They tried to give it more counter space, so they have this little thing that you could flip up. And so I went to Pinterest because that I find to be a site for some really, really creative thinking. And so I just hammered, galley kitchen. But over time, I noticed some things that the galley kitchens that were successful had in common. It looked to me I mean, not all the galley kitchens that I saw on Pinterest I thought worked, but the ones that I did think worked had a few things in common. They all created a focal point at the opposite wall because, I mean, you've got the standard layout. You've got the little alleyway, the tiny little alleyway. You've got the fixed cabinets, kind of an aisleway, usually consisting of cabinets and the large appliances. But you always have either an opposite wall or maybe an entrance to another room. And but the galley kitchens that worked made that opposite wall interesting. Maybe they painted a doorway an interesting color, a bold color, or they gave it a window an interesting treatment, or they placed some really bold artwork on the opposite wall that you would see through the doorway if that galley kitchen led to another room. And maybe they'd add a row of pendant lights on the ceiling to lead the eye to that focal point, that accent, that wall.
It's
and they'd add maybe an interesting runner to lead the eye to that wall. Do I did yes, yes, Casey.
and Annie, it's so much more inviting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
And
you.
I wanted to ask you, there was a question in the chat about any tips for designing with pets in mind, especially larger dogs.
Ah, yes. I would say um minimize the rugs that you would have to worry about.
For sure, for sure.
I mean, and I hope I'm not insulting anybody's intelligence. I mean, everybody would be doing this, minimizing the rugs that you would be worrying about. Um, having, there are some wonderful pet-friendly furniture covers now. I mean, really, really beautiful furniture covers. They don't look like you just put a tarp over your sofa. Um, and you could find them on Pinterest. You could find them online very easily now, and they're washable. But I think, particularly if you have larger dogs who have to be walked, who might be bringing mud into the house, I would have maybe a hamper near a door with the towels you need to wipe your dog's feet, um, places where your dogs can sleep on the sofa and you're not going to worry because the sofas have these nice covers, and cut down on the rugs, because you don't you want to be comfortable with, you want your dog to feel comfortable in his or her own house and not feel scolded, and watch you being worried and worrying about things that he or she might be getting dirty. That would be my tip.
Thank you.
I'm
All
an
right.
animal lover, so that was a great question. Thank you.
I,
Um,
I want to ask you a couple of questions.
yes.
First of all, I'm tickled that you decided to put a plant right there, a large plant like that right there. You know, I like that uniqueness. But I'm assuming that that window is a north or south facing window.
South facing.
Okay, so you get kind of like a nice, you get different lighting based on the season coming into
Yes.
that space, right?
Yes.
So I like the way that you put that little heater down there, but I think the way you did that is just so comfortable. I like that blue. That was good taste in that blue.
Thank you. Sydney, I had to, I couldn't go, in my opinion, I couldn't go as dark with this blue as I did with the navy in the big kitchen, because this is indigo, a shade of indigo. The because this room is so tiny, I didn't want to risk having the room feel like the walls were closing in on the person. But I also wanted to create drama, so I had to go a little lighter and a little brighter than the navy that I used in the big kitchen. The plant, um, I chose because I wanted to bring in something that was really funky and interesting and drew the eye. But the original plant that I chose for this room was this lily, this water lily. Wait, is it a water lily? I'm trying to remember. But the original one that I chose had 5 heads and it was a foot taller, and I got it into the room and I thought, oh my gosh, it looks like the plant from Little Shop of Horrors. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My entire life, that is the horror movie that is resonates most strongly with me. That plant that was eating people. And I said, I cannot do that to my house guests. And I mean, I just can't. So I took that 5-headed plant out and put it in the big atrium. You don't see it in the pictures, but in that big atrium, that 5-headed plant doesn't dominate. It's not scary. And I settled on this 4-headed plant that was a foot shorter, and nobody complains about it.
Okay,
Everybody's sleeping soundly on the nice mattress. I used glass that I found on eBay in this room, in this corner, because light passes through the glass and it's a way to add objects, interesting objects to this tiny room without adding clutter. So colored glass ha offers a lot of bang for the buck. A lot and not only for the money you're spending on it, but for the amount of space it takes up, it adds a lot of impact.
do those cupboards go all the way to the ceiling, or is there space on the top of those cupboards?
They go, oh, huh. Interesting question. They go all the way to the ceiling. There's nothing on top. There's no way to put anything on top of those cupboards. By the way, I also want to say, you see the Formica beige countertops are gone. You see they're gone?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I just want to tell you all this.
How much?
Um, I was, this was as tiny as this kitchen is, and as tiny as these little countertops are. This was going to be one of the biggest expenditures I'd made in renovating this house because I hadn't knocked down walls. I hadn't replaced my mom's Corian countertops. This was going to be a relatively big item. And so I started shopping around for people who installed new countertops. And I got a quote that was several thousands of dollars more than I was willing to pay for this tiny little kitchen in a guest house. I was not going to pay that kind of money. So I looked at Home Depot and I had the perfect experience. They work with a third-party installer. I contacted Home Depot on their website. They got back to me the next day. I gave them the measurements for the kitchen countertops. Their third-party installer came out and put this in. I wanted these countertops to look like my mom's just because I love my mom and her countertops and the Corian countertops had worked so well. And I saved many thousands of dollars on this. This was entirely appropriate.
How much electricity is in that kitchen? Doesn't look like there's too many outlets.
Got
I see those.
this and then one at this wall,
This one there.
and I did one at this wall. You can, what you're not seeing, oh gosh, I should tell you, what you're not seeing is the refrigerator. I mentioned this in the book. I had assumed, not knowing anything, that this old refrigerator looked like it was maybe been there since the 70s, was just something that just wasn't good anymore. And and I really needed to replace it. And I just assumed that. And somebody who had cleaned house for my mom sent me a message and said, whatever you do, do not get rid of that refrigerator. That is a special refrigerator. Go in and look at it. So I open it up. It's called a GE Frost Guard. It was made back when people would buy refrigerators that were good for 50 years. We don't even have these things today. We don't have, this is like the Jetsons. The counter, the shelves in the refrigerator revolve so that nothing gets lost in the back. They adjust height with the touch of a button. The little butter compartment, you can adjust the precise temperature of the butter. We don't have this today. We don't have refrigerators like this. These things are so special that you can go online and look for a GE Frost guard and you've got whole little fetishes. I mean, people looking for these refrigerators because they're so good.
Hmm.
So I'm glad this woman got to me. I'm really proud of this refrigerator. I should have included a picture of it. Now, with winter coming, I wanted a room where I can exercise and read in natural light. Um, because we get so much. I mean, I love our winters here. I love our weather. I never complain about our weather here, but winter's kind of long. Um, and um, this room that had been used for kind of storage for a while has lots of natural light. It's the room I'm in right now. It has some sunlight, sunroofs, and glass on facing north. Ah, Sydney, you'll be interested. North and south. But this was the color that the room had been painted. Now, Sydney,
Hmm.
the the interesting thing about north light that comes from the north is because it's it's always indirect because the sun never shines, never rises or sets in the north. So all the light that comes from a north facing window is is never harsh, but it's kind of diffuse and it tends to be bluish and cold as a result.
Exactly.
This is this is really interesting. I mean, it really is was a fun challenge because I can see why my mom, when she was looking for colors to paint this room, didn't know what else to do because she kept coming up with a kind of cold feeling. And she finally thought of this blue, which really doesn't work on a brick wall. But I can see I can see what happened there. What I needed to do was find a color for the walls that had just enough creaminess to counteract the coldness of the north, the light coming from the north. So it would balance. And if you imagine, you see this wall here, imagine if I painted it white, how cold it would look. It couldn't take white. It would look like you wouldn't want to spend time there. This is a taupe color with just a subtle creaminess, nothing over the top. This is these are garden statues that I found on the patio that have been there for decades, and a really comfortable sofa, kind of a little Togo sofa that I found at Wayfair, and an antique lamp made of books, a stack of books, and things that I'd had for years. And then found an exercise bike online and some other comfortable chairs. And this is a vintage wicker chair I had from IKEA bought 25 years ago. But this room where I am right now is the room that I can use to spend time in that gives me enough natural light that I don't feel like falling asleep at 4 in the afternoon because our sleep and wake cycles are tied to the natural light cycles. So when the days get shorter and we get groggy, it's really because our brains are registering that it's time to go to sleep. And I feel much more awake the more natural light I can enjoy in a room and outside.
I see on your, oh, excuse me, I see on your table there, in the rest of in the other rooms, you went more for darker furniture, but I see that you went lighter in that room, especially, against that wall and whatnot, and then you put a dark piece on top of it like that. I see how you
Well, you
put it.
mean the dark piece, this dark lamp
Yeah.
is this antique because I love mixing modern with antique just to create surprises. Not, I mean, just I love the unexpected. This is a modern table that I bought. It was the first piece of nice furniture I bought when I graduated from college. So I love it. I love it to this day. I mean, it really means something to me. And this, I found it this lamp, which is made from literal actual books, with a little leather strap holding them together. Somebody turned it into a lamp. And these are garden statues, but the you the whole tone of this room, as you're noticing, is more modern than the rest of the house. But that's fine because these walls are brick. I mean, this house is over 100 years old, and we end up with a room with brick walls. The reason that this room exists is that my parents had extended the house. They created a bedroom um, on the other side of this wall. So the opposite wall was an original outside wall of the house. So you're basically turning an an outside wall into an inside wall. The house is made of brick, and this brick wall matches that. And then on the other side of this wall is my parents' bedroom. And I end up with these skylights. So all of these features are really contemporary, or at least were contemporary 25 years ago, but they're much more contemporary than 100 years old. So I could go modern easily with this room. So, tips for budget-friendly design choices. Figure out what you have and what you like, and you build rooms around those elements. Um, it saves you a ton of money, a lot of money, and it also keeps strangers out of your house. Saves you a lot of work, but it also means that you're not going to be you're not going to be creating a lot of upheaval in your home as people do a lot of work um, to gut your kitchen or anything else. So you really, if you can possibly, if you can possibly take stock of what you have and build rooms around those elements, it benefits us in a lot of ways. eBay, Etsy, App Deco, which is a high-end site for, I can show you something, a high-end site for furniture through which you can arrange delivery. This coffee table, see this glass coffee table in the living room? I found it on Apt Deco. It was from somebody's estate, somebody's family, and I was able to arrange shipment from upstate New York to my house, and the delivery was so it was a third party delivery service, and he gave me the white glove, wonderful delivery. And it was just a beauty. And this coffee table, which was probably made in the 1920s, looks perfectly comfortable in this house.
Yes, it does.
So Apt Deco. Poshmark, which is very much like eBay, and thrift stores are great outlets. Choosing classic designs for the big expenses, not choosing the countertop with the loud pattern that you're going to get sick of a year from now or can't work around when you want to do other things in the room. I mean, just things that if you're going to be spending a lot of money, buy something that is is compatible with a lot of other things so you can keep it forever. Use free services extravagantly. Pinterest, Benjamin Moore website. There are 3 rug companies that I've found where you can upload pictures of your room onto the website and shop for rugs just by seeing how different rugs look in your room, and saves you the headache of ordering a rug you don't like and ending up with this huge thing. I mean, who wants to return a rug? Who wants to be? I mean, you'd rather give it away. I mean, you don't have to do that anymore. These are 3 companies that I've used to find just the right rug without any kind of expense or mistake. Easy to change drawer knobs and pulls, and to use vinyl tiles. And Etsy is a great site for all of these. Does anybody have any questions?
There is one more question in the chat, Anne, about how modern technology can be an eyesore with cords and cables. How can we make TVs and computers blend in with the design of a space instead of stand out?
Wow, that's interesting. You notice I didn't have any TVs in my room.
Yes, I noticed that too once that question was posed.
Yes. Um, because I watch everything, I stream everything on my laptop, so I don't have any TVs. But when I was kind of interested in what people might do with a big screen TV, I came across some really interesting things on Pinterest, ideas where they would put them over a mantle and then they'd have artwork. There are companies that produce artwork these are screens that look like paintings, and you can just close the the doors of the painting to block, to obscure the big screen TV when you're not watching it. So that is one answer.
Thank you.
Now, could I mention um my book um has a limited edition, because when I came up with the idea for the book, I really wanted it to be most mm, comforting to caregivers, to people who were spending a lot of day taking care of somebody they loved. And maybe at the end of the day, they're tired and their eyes are tired and they really deserve and need to be, would like to be pampered. And so I wanted the book to feel like a really luxuriant experience. Um, so I had a special printing made of what I call the limited edition, and it's on 80 pound, what they call 80 pound coated stock that feels good to the touch. And the photos, because it's coated stock, this is how it, the photos really pop in this edition. And the regular edition is lovely and I like it very much. And you can find it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. But the limited edition, which is only $1 more in its original price, its regular price, is available on my website. And I just love it when people buy the limited edition because it, I want them to be pampered. Now, um, the for the holidays until January 1st, the limited edition is available on my website at a 10% discount with free shipping as long as I ship the book within the United States. I don't want to have to wrestle with tariffs and okay. And if anybody wants to give it as a holiday gift to their favorite caregiver or somebody who loves interior design or anybody else, and they want me to wrap it and or sign it, I would be glad to do that and ship it to whoever they want to give it to directly. So here is my website, and here's my Instagram. And if anybody wants to order the regular edition, on they can, if you link to books to read in any country or within the United States, you'll find the sites where you can order the book, the regular edition of the book. So thank you.
Thank you, Annie, and please check out Annie's website and perhaps the special edition book as a holiday gift. And as we get closer to the holidays, on Thursday, December 4th at 1 o'clock, there will be the next talk about this book. This is a series of two, and Annie will be sharing more about caregiver tips and self-care. So Annie, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your next session of this series, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. That's a good question, Casey. November is National Caregivers Month. And this is a time when, even if we don't think about taking care of ourselves as caregivers, this is the month where we absolutely have the excuse, the reason to do it. The focus of the next session is on specific changes that we can make in our house to make it easier for us to take care of ourselves, to sleep well, to get exercise. Those are things that we've already talked about today. To eat well and to engage in social support, because what I found in my experience was the the I was isolated. I mean, it's almost inevitable that if you don't address this deliberately, the caregiving experience is going to cut you off from a lot of the things that you need to keep yourself feeling healthy. And that includes being with your friends and relaxing and doing fun things. And so there are things that you can do in your house and changes you can make to your environment to help meet those needs, including your need for social support. And I wanted to talk about them in the next session. I also wanted to talk about ways that if we are hoping to age in place and really extend our health span over our lifetime, the years that we have left in which we're not dependent on other people, in which we are healthy and active, that's called our health span. What can we do now to make that happen? And what can we do to equip our houses for our um, our advancing years and help support us through our own old age? So that's what next week is about, or the next session is about after our break for Thanksgiving.
We're so grateful for your time, Annie, for sharing your expertise, not only in design, but mental health, self-care, caregiving, help, and support. Thank you. And
Thank you.
we hope to
Thank you. And
see
thank you
all of
so much
you on
for,
December 4th at 1 o'clock.
thank you all for coming today. And it was delightful. And happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, and happy Thanksgiving
And
to you.
happy
This was
Thanksgiving.
enjoyable. This was very enjoyable.
And thank you for being so engaging, Sydney.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
All righty. Bye, everybody, for now.
Bye,
See you
everybody.
soon.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.